And we are back for our PFL Mena predictions. It is the third of four PFL Mena cards here in 2025. And we've got the semifinals for PFL Mena. In the main event, Alqaraa takes on Aman Galal. Galal, coming off of a loss that got overturned, still finds himself in the main event fighting the guy for PFL Mena. At least that's who the PFL has been hyping up. And again, we've got 12 total fights on this card from Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Before we get into the video, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more PFL predictions here on the channel. We posted our PFL Europe predictions earlier on in the week for PFL Nantes, France. Again, that's linked in the description down below. And also, we posted our UFC Perth predictions earlier in the week as well. Okay, let's get on the first of our 12 fights for PFL Mena, kicking things off with a rescheduled bout. This was originally supposed to take place earlier in the year on the second PFL Mena card of the year. Hassan Ahmed Mohammed takes on Abdulaziz Ben Momar. I'm not going to change anything from the original pick. I'm going with Ben Momar by decision. Now, this is an amateur fight, so I'm not going to spend more than probably a minute on this fight. There's really nothing to say, okay? Ben Momar has fought once as an amateur in PFL. He won a fight by decision. Mohammed has not fought in the PFL before. It's an amateur fight. We've seen this before with Malik Bashil. We've seen this with Bajo Ali Walsh. When the PFL books amateur fights, there's clearly a guy that they want to win. They want the Saudi Arabian guy to win in Saudi Arabia. It's pretty obvious. Mohammed is from Egypt. Ben Momar is Saudi Arabian. I'm going to take the guy who's actually fought in PFL before, who's from Saudi Arabia. It just makes sense. It's an amateur fight. You can't bet on it. I'm not going to spend much time on it. Give me Abdulaziz Ben Momar to win the fight by decision. Okay, now on to the professional fights. We don't get into the tournament fights for a little bit. We actually got two showcase bouts before, and we start things off with Abdullah Salim taking on Ahmed Elsis in the 155-pound division. Ahmed Elsis coming off a loss on the first PFL Mena card of the year to Mohammadseifi by unanimous decision. And for Abdullah Salim, 5-1 as a pro, but coming off a loss as well to Tairi, both these two fighters, again, losing the first Mena card of the year. Salim got knocked out. He fought back in 2024 in PFL Mena, fought Omar and won the fight by submission. He ended up failing a drug test. So that fight got overturned. You see that low-key quite a bit. You see it quite a bit for the PFL Mena cards. You see these fighters missing drug or failing drug tests, as we're going to talk about. It's a big storyline, at least in the main event, and how we got the main event. But Salim loses to 7-6-1 Sulil Tayari, who is later on in the card, but a fighter that I don't think's very good. And for Elsis, this is a guy who lost to Mohammadseifi, who is coming off a PFL Mena victory and championship in 2024. So I'm going to go with Elsis to win this bout. Salim has won in PFL before, but he got popped on a drug test. I think Elsis, got one shot and lost to the champion last year. This is a guy who will look to get you down. He's got a pretty decent ground game and a guy who's just going to punch once he gets on the ground as well. Was outmatched in his last fight, but that should be expected, taking on the reigning champion. I'm going to go with Ahmed Elsis to beat Abdullah Salim. I think he gets it done by TKO. That's just what he does. Again, it is a grappling heavy approach, and once he gets to the fight on the mat, he is going to try to land bombs. I'm going to go with Ahmed Elsis to win this bout by second round TKO over the white gorilla Abdullah Salim. Next up, we move on to a matchup, the final showcase bout of the card. Hussein Salim taking on Izzardine Al-Derbani. You got the 36-year-old in the Palestinian samurai Al-Derbani taking on the 32-year-old Iraqi fighter nicknamed the Buffalo in Hussein Salim. Both these fighters have lost before and lost quite a bit, as Al-Derbani has 5 L's. He's 15-5, coming off a loss in Brave back in 2024. And for Hussein Salim, this is a guy who is 12-6, coming off a loss in the first PFL Mena card against Asim Ghanem. Now, Al-Derbani was supposed to be in the PFL tournament. He was supposed to take on Ghemmouri in the first round, but Al-Derbani got sick the week of the fight, so they scrapped the fight altogether. They advanced Ghemmouri to the next round of the tournament, like we're going to see later on the card. And here comes Al-Derbani back here fighting in a showcase bout. Has a fight against Dean Garnett back in 2023, lost it by unanimous decision. I mean, there's just a lot of losses on the record. He's fought decent competition in all fairness. But another thing about Derbani, he's 36. You're 36, fighting at 145 pounds. He is somewhat of a big featherweight, being 5'10", but, you know, that late in your career, 36 years old, I don't love it. Salem has lost quite a bit too, but he's 32, and he's 5'10" as well, so two bigger featherweights for the most part. Salim's going to have a grappling-heavy approach. That's what he does. You know, he can strike and picked up a knockout win in one earlier this year, but likely you're going to see a grappling-heavy approach to Salim. That's where he's won most of his fights. And for Derbani, you know, same kind of deal. Can strike, will see the grappling too, but this is a guy who couldn't make it to the scales or couldn't make it to fight night against Ghemmouri. Again, circumstances, it is what it is. I think Salim, though, should have the advantage on the ground, and I think he should have the advantage on the feet too. Derbani, the striking game isn't great. It isn't. And I know, again, Salim is a primary grappler, but we've seen him get knockout victories before. He has lost to a 7-8 guy. He lost to a 7-8 guy 4 fights ago. And it was a guy who was, you know, he lost to in 11 seconds. But back-to-back finish wins after in UAE Warriors and won and ran into Ghanem, who was 4-0 going into the bout 5-0, and now he's going to take on Ghemmouri. So essentially, this is just the two losers, even though Derbani just never fought. I thought Ghemmouri was going to walk through Derbani personally, and I know, again, the fight got canceled. I believe we had Ghemmouri. Did we have him by first-round knockout? We did. It's just a very hittable guy, an older fighter. It would just make sense if he gets chinned again. I'm going to go second-round TKO for Hassan Salim. That gives us time, too, again, if it is a ground strikes finish, too, that could present itself. I just think Derbani at 36 isn't really going to be all that competitive here. And I think personally, right, there's a reason they gave him Ghemmouri, because they wanted Ghemmouri to come in off victory after, you know, being in the UFC, being somewhat of a well-known guy coming into the PFL. So I'm going to take Hassan Salim to finish the Palestinian samurai Derbani by second round TKO. Now we move in to the tournament fights. As we go on to the bantamweight division, we have got Xavier Alaoui taking on Islam Youssef. Xavier, a minus 430 favorite going into this bout, coming off a victory over Ziad Ayman Mukhtar in his last bout. And for Islam Youssef, coming off of a knockout win, a head kick knockout victory in his first bout in PFL Mena this year. The experience factor definitely goes with the Canadian and Xavier, who is 16-6 professionally. He's training at a TriStar, coming off of a win, again, over Mukhtar in the first round of the tournament. Did fight in PFL back in 2024 and PFL Mena back in 2024. Ended up losing and getting subbed in the second round by Rashid Haas. On the flip side, though, takes on Islam Youssef, who's 6-2. Didn't miss weight in his last bout. Missed weight by a pound and a half. They still let him fight. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the PFL would just disqualify you if you missed weight. They don't do that anymore, though. I think this is what they're still doing. They just take a point from you. But if you can still get a finish, then it doesn't matter. So it is what it is. Youssef misses weight, but he still finds a way to flying kick, knock out his opponent. Guy he thought was a little fraudulent. But the same thing with Youssef, right? I mean, this is a guy who's got a very weird resume, has not beaten a winning fighter other than in his last fight. He has multiple guys on his record that have the record ineligible MMA tag on Tapology, meaning that Tapology just can't find the fighters he beat, nor can they really verify that those fights happened. And usually that's never a good sign. Now we just saw a fighter on the Contender Series win with that same exact tag, and I thought she lost the fight to Sofia Montenegro, but it is what it is. I think Xavier Alaoui, who has a bunch of experience, should be able to win this fight. I mean, we've talked about it before. He's fought some really good guys. He fought Michael Imperiato back in TKO. Again, Imperiato in Unk at this point, but what is what it is. Imperiato, he beat lost to Vinicius Oliveira, beat Mateo Vogel, who fought in the Contender Series at one point. Like, he's beaten decent guys, and I do believe he should be able to beat Islam Youssef as well. I mean, just the experience should go with Xavier, and I think you're going to see both guys try to grapple. That's where their bases are. And I'm going to take a guy who's got way more experience training at a TriStar. I get it. I've been a critic of Canadian MMA. I have nothing against the country of Canada. It's just, I mean, on the UFC scale, which good Canadian? When's the last time there's been a good Canadian other than George St. Pierre? There hasn't, okay? There's been guys, Hakeem Dawodu, Mike Malott. On the PFL level, I can still pick Canadians. Like, hell, OAM. Even though I think OAM's an exception, I think he would have been could if he went back to the UFC. But hell, Olivier Aben-Mercier is the PFL GOAT, right? So I'm going to go with the TriStar fighter here, and Xavier Alaoui, the Bread Man, is his nickname. I think he should go in here and win this fight by decision. When you get two grapplers, I expect the more experienced guy to win. And the guy who's training out of a better gym, the guy who has won over double the amount of fights his opponent has. Yeah, I expect Xavier to get this one done by unanimous decision and move on to the championship fight. We'll get into his opponent later on in the card. Next up, we go to the aforementioned former UFC fighter, Yanis Ghemmouri, as he is a minus 215 favorite, taking on Asim Ghanem, who won in the first round of the PFL tournament. Of course, we mentioned earlier, Ghemmouri did not have to fight earlier on in the season, as he was supposed to take on Derbani. Derbani gets sick, and so again, they just advanced Ghemmouri right away. Now, again, we had Ghemmouri to win the fight by first round knockout. I thought it was one of the easier picks to make on the card. Hell, again, Derbani's back on the card, or this card, and I still picked against the guy. I didn't feel great about his next fight, obviously. I think Ghemmouri, though, is in a good is in a good spot to win this one. Ghanem is a guy who beat, again, Hussein Salem, who I think is going to beat Derbani, but not the highest level of guy, right? Ghemmouri, you can take his UFC run with a grain of salt because he had two fights. It was an interesting signing, but he has experience in Brave. He fought in the UFC, didn't do all that well against William Gomez. Gomez eventually finished him in the third round, and Ghemmouri at one point in time was, I believe he still may be the biggest, he was not the biggest underdog in UFC history. That is still Chase Sherman against Romanov, but Ghemmouri was the biggest underdog in a fight in 2024 in the UFC, plus 900 on the line, and he got knocked out in 19 seconds by Peyton Talbot. Now, the UFC did not re-sign his contract, or give him an extension, or give him another fight, but Ghemmouri did put together a pretty good body of work outside the UFC, like in Brave. Rashid Haas is a good victory that he had back in Brave. Of course, we've seen Haas in PFL Mena as well, and I know Ghemmouri struggled, right, in the UFC. This is a guy on the regional scene and in PFL Mena should see a lot of success on the feet, should be able to grapple with a lot of these guys, and he's taking on Asim Ghanem, who has 5 pro fights and has beaten one winning fighter ever, and that is Salem in his last bout. I think we should be okay here. I mean, I don't want to put too much into the former UFC tag because, quite honestly, that is overrated at times. I get that, but Ghemmouri, I don't even want to say he passes the eye test. He's just a better fighter in my opinion. He's going up from 135 for this tournament. I think that should, be for the better for him. I mean, Ghanem's a pretty big 145 pounder. He's 6 foot, 5'11", 6 feet tall. He's a tall guy. I still think Ghemmouri should be able to win this one. Right away when he entered the tournament, I thought he was probably going to be the favorite to get it. I don't know. Again, we'll talk about the Reda, Islam Reda fight and Taha later in the card. But I do think the Desert Warrior in Yanis Ghemmouri should be able to get this one done by decision. I think he's a better striker all around. Grappling-wise, I think he's better too. I just think he should outclass Asim Ghanem here, and I think he should be able to win it by unanimous decision. Next up, we move on to the 170-pound division, the welterweight division, as we've got the minus 340 favorite here, and Babardine Diani taking on Amir Fazli. Diani, a huge favorite in this one. This is a guy who has been in PFL Mena for quite a bit. Fought in 2024, beat Amir Fazli the first time around by unanimous decision, and then came back this year, beat Ahmed Darwish in his first fight in Riyadh, and now here we are. So it's a rematch of the fight that just happened between these two back in 2024. Fazli's had more fights in PFL Mena. They've just booked him against tough guys, though, right? Gets Diani in his first bout. They say, okay, go fight Muhammad Alqaraa next because, Alqara's their guy. And then he runs into Rastam Akman, and he catches Akman right up the middle, or not right up the middle, but with a big overhand. Akman looked horrible in the fight. He looked slow. He looked like crap. I don't know. I guess I was too high on, I wasn't high on Akman. I just thought Akman was going to be able to win. I don't know how that guy was in the UFC at one point in time. Again, that's not a UFC bias thing. It was just like, dude, how are you getting chinned by... I just didn't think he was going to be able to... I didn't think he was going to get chinned by Fazli, because that's really all Fazli does. He throws hard, and that's about it. I mean, if you can just out-volume him, if you can take him down, you should be able to beat the guy. I mean, Diani's beat him before. He should be able to beat him again, right? Diani last year was supposed to take on Alqaraa in the playoffs, so that's, again, how Fazli got it, but it just... Trust me, I'll talk about Alqaraa later in the video, and I'm so serious. Alqaraa always gets good matchups. And I don't know, again, I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories here, but all right, he avoided Diani last year, who's 2-0 in the PFL. and has been fighting fairly well recently. A guy who can grapple you, can take you down, can give you fits down there. And this year as well, we'll talk about the main event fight with him and Galal. Like, Galal's coming off a loss, and Alqara's in the main event. I wonder why. Like, he's Mr. PFL Mena right now. He's on all the posters and whatnot, but again, I'll get into that later. Him and Mohammadseifi, who's in the co-main, are like the two main guys right now. And Malik Basahel, but Malik Basahel always gets very favorable matchups too. I gotta go with Diani here. I mean, we just saw the fight. You know, it was just last year. Diani's had one fight in between. He beats Ahmed Darwish. Fazli finally wins a fight in PFL Mena. Again, catches Ahmed. But this is my point with him. If you don't get chinned, and if you can just avoid the big shots that he throws, because a lot of his finishes, I know the Ahmed fight goes into the second round. A lot of his finishes in UAE Warriors are a minute in. Less than a minute, you know? First round finish. If Diani gets to pass the first round with him, he should win. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. I think, again, Fazli really, to me, only has power. And as we've seen, once he's gone the distance, so the two times he's gone the distance in PFL, he's lost. And again, one of them is Diani, and the other one is Alqaraa. So I'm going to go with Babardine Diani to win the fight. He's a minus 340 favorite. It does not surprise me at all. Fazli just hits hard and swings hard, and that's about it. So I got to go with Diani to win the bout by unanimous decision. I think he should be able to get this one deeper in the fight. And again, as you go deeper in the bout, he should be able to take control and start dominating Fazli. We move on to our next fight in the bantamweight division as we've got Mokhtar Benkaci taking on Nuras Abzakh. Again, in the bantamweight division, Mokhtar Benkaci, a fighter who has fought not just in PFL Mena before, but PFL Europe and in the PFL American promotion as well, even though the one time he did fight for the PFL, he fought in England or in Europe, but it is what it is. It's when they took the playoffs to Europe that one year. Anyways, Benkaci, though, has been around PFL for quite a bit. Fighting in the promotion back in 2022, fighting Francisco Nuzzi, and that fight ended up getting or being a no contest due to an eye poke. Came back in PFL Europe, fought two really tough guys. And I remember I said this last time Benkaci fought when he was coming into PFL Mena, and that's why it made sense that we thought he was going to win. The level of opponent that he fought in PFL Europe was pretty high. Fought Khurshid Kakharov, lost the fight by decision. Kakharov, the fighter who eventually ended up winning that season of PFL Europe. I don't know where the hell he's at. He's gonna fight an Octagon next. I mean, they couldn't re-sign this guy. Anyways, he lost to Kakharov by unanimous decision and then ended up fighting Franz Malabo later in the year and losing that fight by split decision. Well, again, Malabo and Kakharov ended up fighting each other in the championship fight. So no shame in losing those two guys. I mean, those are the two toughest guys that he could have fought at bantamweight that year. Steps out of the PFL, wins 4 consecutive fights, and gets a shot back in PFL Mena now. Knocks out or TKOs Marcel Adour with a body shot less than a minute in the first round. Now here he is in the second round against a fighter in Nuras Abzakh, who's 13-6, coming off a victory over Ali Yazbek by second round knockout. Fought in PFL Mena in 2024, ran into the wrong guy, Ali Taleb, who is now fighting in PFL Europe and is on to bigger and better things. I guess if that bigger and better thing is losing to Taylor Lapalus, but I mean, that's a very difficult fight. My thing with Abzakh is very 50-50 guy. I mean, he's 13-6 professionally. He's 2-2 in his last 4 bouts. He can throw hard, and he's got submissions as well, but it's hard to pick against the most experienced guy on this entire card. And this is what I mentioned last time Benkaci fought, and when he fought Marcel Adour, and that's why I thought he was going to go through Adour. Even though Adour, very experienced guy, he was coming off a win over Guido Canetti at the time, but Benkaci it's rare to find fighters in PFL Mena that have a bunch of experience. Because, and this is why I think Ghemmouri is going to continue to do so well, even though, again, his 2 UFC fights, he got KO'd. It's just, or TKO'd in the Gomez fight, but you get what I mean. A lot of these fighters, and this is no disrespect to PFL Mena, I'm glad they're doing these cards, but this is really just the highest level of regional MMA, right? And you're going to get some main events, and like, could Alqaraa fight, on a little higher scale? Probably. Could Mohammadseifi probably fight on a higher scale? Probably. But again, for the most part, this is regional MMA. And this is just this is a UAE Warriors super card. It's probably the best way I can put this. And good on the PFL for doing these cards and bringing attention to Saudi Arabian MMA. Hell, I wouldn't know half of these fighters if the PFL didn't do these cards, right? I wouldn't. If these guys were just fighting UAE Warriors, like, I'll be honest, I'm not going to pay attention to UAE Warriors over Fury, over Cage Fury, over all those promotions in the States. There's so much MMA, right? So good on them on doing this. But if you're a guy like Mokhtar Benkaci, who's fought in a bunch of regionals around Europe, you fought in PFL Europe before, you have 35 professional bouts, you're not coming to PFL Mena and losing. I don't care how good these guys are supposed to be. You have fought on a major promotion, on a major scale. You're not going to lose to these guys who are regional fighters who are the same age as you when you have so much more experience and you fought way better guys. I mean, this is a step down for Benkaci, and it's a good step for him because go in here, go win 3 straight fights and become the PFL Mena champion. So again, I thought it was a good move when he fought last time in PFL Mena. I still think it's a good move. Now he's in the second round. Okay, this should be dominant. And you saw how easy his first fight was. It wasn't competitive. Well, I mean, it was a 60-second finish. Lands a perfect body shot, ends the fight. I mean, this should be another first-round knockout for Benkaci. I think he's probably going to run through the season. Probably. I mean, in the next fight he's going to fight will be... he's going to get the winner of Xavier Alaoui and Islam Youssef. We'll see how that one goes. Again, Alaoui is another guy who has experience, so we'll see how that goes. But I still think Benkaci's the favorite to win the entire thing. I'm going to take him to win this fight by first-round knockout. Next up, we go to the lightweight division, as we have got a very heavy favorite here. He's only minus 265. He should probably be higher. Salah Hamli takes on Sulil Tairi in this bout. We have the Moroccan fighter fighting out of Spain and Salah Hamli, who, again, I believe is a huge favorite to win this bout. Even minus 265 does not do it justice, and he's taking on an Algerian fighter fighting out of France in Sulil Tairi. First thing you need to know, just look at the records, right? And that doesn't paint the entire picture, of course. MMA, right? It's all about how you're fighting recently. Hell, again, this is an extreme example, but look at the run Jorge Masvidal went on. His record was, 30-20, and he at one point in time had 2 shots to win the UFC's welterweight championship against Kamaru Usman, right? But it's different being 30-20 and beating 8-6-1, and that's what Sulil Tairi is. Now, he has 2 victories in PFL Mena, coming off of that Abdullah Salem win, and against Salem fighting very early on in the card, and winning his first fight in PFL Mena against Ahmed Amir back in 2024. Again, Tairi fought Muhammad Yahya back in 2023, and this is why I was a little skeptical of him in his first fight in PFL Mena this year, and that's why I actually thought Salem was going to beat the guy, because how do you lose to Muhammad Yahya? And I know Yahya is fighting UFC guys, and if you take Yahya and put him in PFL Mena, I think he does all right, but I don't know. Legitimately, you put Yahya in PFL Mena, do you think he wins the entire thing? I don't know, because Yahya to me is the worst UFC fighter in history. He's horrible. He's gotten completely beat down in all 3 fights that he's had. And you know who he has a win against? In his last fight before going to the UFC, he went out there and won a 5-round fight, full 25 minutes, and beat Sulil Tairi. That's not good. That's not great. For Tairi, at least. And this is a guy who was a 50-50 fighter before coming into PFL Mena, and that's what he's been in PFL Mena too. Wins over Ahmed Amir, Abdullah Salem, and losses to Mohammadseifi and John Mitchell. But the John Mitchell fight was on the Champion Series in Dubai. And he was a big underdog in that one. And he's taken on an undefeated guy nicknamed Super Salah Hamli, who's 9-0, coming off an Abbas Khan 3rd-round submission victory. And the guys he fought in the regional scene, are they the best? No, but it's just victories. I mean, it's victories that Hamli has been stacking, and I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go out here and beat Sulil Tairi fairly easily too. I mean, I'm going to go first round knockout. This is a very automatic pick for me. Salah ad-Din Hamli goes out there and beats Sulil Tairi by first round knockout. We go to the featherweight division. We will see who's going to take on Ghemmouri, in my opinion, in the featherweight championship. Islam Reda versus Taha the Atlas Lion Bendaoud. Excuse me. 2 guys who have been around PFL Mena for quite a bit, right? I believe this is both their 2nd seasons, if I'm not mistaken. I know Taha's been around for quite a bit. And yeah, Reda last year went 2-0, was supposed to fight Ali Hassat in the playoffs. He had to pull out from that fight. And Taha is 5-0, but he's been around PFL for quite a bit. Was not in the PFL Mena season last year, was booked to fight on it, never ended up having fights against Alqaraa and Al-Suwani, but won on a super fight card against Tairi Ismail. It was somewhat of an upset winning that fight by triangle choke. Anyways, the Atlas Lion actually makes his debut in PFL Mena itself on the first card of the year. Supposed to take on Ali Hassat in, I guess, a rebooking of their bout in 2024. It doesn't happen. He takes on Drisi Boulam instead. It goes out there and submits the somewhat inexperienced Boulam by triangle choke in the first round. And for the Egyptian zombie in Islam Reda, this is a 13-1 fighter who is now 3-0 in PFL Mena and was given an opportunity to potentially fight for a championship last year, but could not make it to the scales against Ali Hassat. Taha was supposed to take on Al-Suwani, not Ali Hassat. I scrambled those two guys. So anyways, originally, they were both booked against, he was booked against both of them, but it wasn't a rebooking. That's my apologies on that one. Reda, though, 3-0 in the PFL. This is a guy who can take you down and just hurt you on the ground. Whether it be submissions, which is usually how he's going to approach things once he takes you down, or through ground strikes like his first victory in PFL Mena this season. It was just a bludgeoning, right? I mean, it's an eventual finish late in the fight against a very inexperienced fighter in the 3-0, Akram Nasri. It was just one of those fights where, I mean, you heavily expect one guy to win, and that's what Islam Reda did. The Egyptian zombie, I mean, he can take punches, right? He's going to keep walking forward. His only loss ever is a split decision loss to Abdullah Al-Kantani, who was the PFL champion last year, and they were supposed to rematch on the first PFL Mena card in the main event, but it didn't end up happening as Al-Kantani had to pull out from that fight, and we have not seen Abdullah since. But anyways, Islam Reda should be looked at as a pretty big favorite in this fight. Taha, again, 2-0 in the PFL, 4-0 professionally, 5-0 professionally. He's just very inexperienced, though, when it comes to this matchup. I mean, Reda has had 14 fights, and he's 3-0 in the PFL. I'd be very surprised if he didn't win this bout. Again, I thought he was going to be very close with Al-Kantani in their rematch. Again, their first fight was a split decision. And again, we'll see what happens in the potential Reda versus Ghemmouri fight, but that's definitely the fight that should happen and probably will happen. So I'm going to go with Islam Reda to beat Taha Bendaoud. Always butcher his name. I believe Reda should be able to get it by... Can he submit Taha, though? Because Taha is just primarily a grappler. I'm going to go decision. I think the two grappling games kind of cancel each other out. I'm going to go Reda by decision because we are going to see a grappling heavy fight, I would think. I'm going to go Islam Reda, the Egyptian zombie, to win the fight by unanimous decision. Could see a late TKO, but I'm going to go Reda there. Next up, we go to whatever the hell this is. Here we go. In the flyweight division, Malik Bashil takes on Ahmed Mostafa. I don't know what the hell we're supposed to do with this fight. Malik Bashil, 1-0. He's been around PFL for quite a bit. If you remember the PFL versus Bellator card, Malik Bashil, they had fight on the first fight the PFL has ever done in Saudi Arabia. It was Malik Bashil on the opener fighting an amateur MMA fight against, who was his name? Harsh Panda, I believe it was. No, Vinicius Pineda. Malik Bashil is no stranger to the PFL. He's had 4 fights in the PFL before, but obviously I have on the screen his record's only 1-0 because only one of those fights was a pro fight. It was his last fight against Montasir Buhata, where he exceeded expectations, getting a finish in the second round. Again, this is what my point was earlier in the first bout of the night when we had that amateur fight with Ben Momar. It's very clear sometimes what the PFL is aiming to do and what they're aiming to do with not regional talent, but amateur talent. And they went out there, they got Malik Bashil a lot of guys he could beat early on in his amateur career, or late in his amateur career. And then, of course, his first fight in professional MMA, PFL hosts it, and he goes out there and gets a finish. Oddly enough, he actually lost his last amateur fight outside of the PFL. But again, that's just PFL matchmaking. Because when he was fighting amateur guys, when he's still fighting amateur fights in PFL Mena, he's fighting 0-0 fighters. Guys making their amateur debut when Malik Bashil has 24 amateur fights. So again, it just goes to show what the PFL is trying to accomplish, and that's fine because it's easy to pick this fight. Malik Bashil comes in as the second biggest favorite on this card at -900, and he will easily knock out, at 125, he will knock out Ahmed Mostafa in the second round. I could only find one picture on the internet of Ahmed Mostafa, and it was his headshot picture that Tapology uses. I could not find another picture of the guy. You can't find fights of this guy. I don't know who he is. He has never beaten a fighter who has a win. Where do they find this guy? I don't know. He's from Egypt. He's 22. Well, you're taking on a guy who's got loads of amateur experience, who's 24 years old, about to turn 24 years old, still 23. This is easy. Give me Malik Bashil by second round knockout. We move on to the co-main event, and this is where you get the guys on PFL Mena, the first of which being Mohsen, the Golden Boy, Mohammadseifi. He is 8-2 professionally. He is 36, but he is one of the bigger stars that the PFL Mena has. They put him on all the posters. He's 8-2, but on a big winning streak because his only 2 losses came in his first 2 fights, and one of which actually his last loss back in 2019 is to UFC fighter Rong Zhu. Rong Zhu must have been like 19 in that fight because Rong Zhu's still young as hell. That's crazy. Anyways, Mohammadseifi was the PFL Mena champion back in 2024 at 155 pounds, beat George Eid in the main event, or not the main event, in the championship fight, and then came on here in 2024, or 2025, and beat Ahmed Elsis in his first fight by unanimous decision. He takes on the 3-0 Mohammed Fahmi in this fight. Fahmi found a way to beat George Eid in the first round of the tournament. We thought we were on track for a rematch between Eid and Mohammadseifi in the championship fight last year, and somehow, some way, Fahmi finds a way to submit him in the first round. Good victory. I'll be honest, I'm not putting much into that. He got him in a submission. That's really all Fahmi does, as you've seen prior to coming into the PFL. A lot of his wins are just by early submission. If Mohammadseifi can keep the fight standing, which I have full confidence that he's able to do, I know his grappling's kind of unproven, and he's more just of a striker, I think he should be fine. I think, again, how you're approaching this fight, if you're Mohsen Mohammadseifi and you saw the guy that you beat in the championship fight get submitted, the same guy that you took 25 minutes, you are purely looking at this fight from a grappling perspective. If I can keep this fight standing, I'm going to win. If I don't get put on my back, I'm going to win. If I can keep the fight on the feet, I'm going to go out here and outstrike this guy. So that's the mindset I believe that the champion's going to have, and I will be damned if the reigning champion, who, again, has power on the feet, his first ever fight in PFL Mena, knocked out Josh Togo with an uppercut. I'm not saying he's going to finish Fahmi. I think he's got a potential to do so. But if you're Mohammadseifi, you just don't want to take any chances. You've won 8 straight fights. You are undefeated in PFL Mena. There's no reason to take a chance against this guy and even consider grappling with him because you have such an advantage on the feet. So I gotta go with Mohsen Mohammadseifi here. I think the potential of a knockout is there, but I do think you're going to see somewhat of a laxed approach in this fight just because the potential of getting taken down. Why overswing, or why, again, put yourself in a position to get taken down if you can just beat this guy standing? So I gotta go with the Iranian fighter who is 36 but still looking solid at this age, reigning champion at 155 pounds in PFL Mena. Give me Mohsen Mohammadseifi to beat Mohammed Fahmi. He'll get it done by unanimous decision. On to the main event in the welterweight division. We have got the PFL Mena Golden Boy, Muhammad Alqaraa, taking on Ayman Galal. This is obvious. You know, the biggest favorite on the entire card is Kuwait's Muhammad Alqaraa, now training out of American Kickboxing Academy in San Jose, California. I mean, they wanted this guy to be the champion last year, and he got chinned in the championship fight by Omar Alaqraa, who fought on the last PFL Mena card, but now is not on this card because he's going to be fighting in the next Champion Series card against Form Zindeli. Anyways, it's very clear what the PFL wants here. They want Alqaraa to win. Now, again, I'm not telling you that they faked a drug test, but Ayman Galal lost his last fight. And I don't know why PFL Mena says that his loss got overturned by the Wyoming State Athletic Commission. The fight was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, but it's okay. Galal lost. He loses a decision. He's a pretty big underdog, and he loses to the 9-1 Mohammadseifi. Zari gets popped for a drug test. Okay, so here comes the loser of that bout in Ayman Galal to get the fight instead. We had raised concerns about Galal taking on Zari because he had never beaten a fighter with a winning record. He had never beaten a fighter who had a win on their record. And yet here he is, or there he was in PFL Mena getting a shot against a guy who's 9-1. Thought that was bad. Now he's taken on, an 8-1 fighter who only has a loss to Alaqraa. By the way, they are 1-1 as Alqaraa beat him outside of the PFL Mena promotion, and now he gets to fight this 4-1 Ayman Galal, who should be 4-2. Again, and I know Zadi failed the drug test, but You were already a plus 300 dog. You already were not very likely to win that fight, and you didn't. And yet here you are in a main event against the number one guy PFL Mena has. You are inexperienced taking on Alqaraa, who I don't think he does much very well. You know, he's just an all-around good fighter who has a good camp around him, a good background around him, and obviously a promotional backing around him as well. So obviously I'm going to go Mohammed Alqaraa to win this bout. It's a no-brainer. He's a minus 1,100 favorite, and we will obviously see him later on in the season for his championship bout, where he looks to redeem himself, obviously, against probably Diani, but again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. In the main event, though, I'm going to be taking Mohammed Alqaraa to beat Ayman Galal. He doesn't really get finishes, but, I mean, I think it's just a dominant 30-27. I think Mohammed Alqaraa is going to win the bout by unanimous decision, and I think it's a fairly easy one. So, give me Alqaraa to win the bout. Folks, thank y'all for watching our PFL Mena predictions here on the channel. If you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for UFC Best Bets. Thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.